a video about making a maple glazed butternut bundt cake that my wife makes all the time. We love it, and as you can see, we still have some butternuts left from the garden. There's some almost starting to go bad, and there's a couple pumpkins left. We had a lot of problems with them going bad, but the root cellar is emptying it out, and the empty jars are starting to build up now, getting ready for next summer again. So my wife started by just, grabbing a couple butternuts out of there and roasting them to make the puree. As I did a video a while ago showing this. So you just roast them and, scrape them out in the blender and puree it up. And then she had this recipe that it's called a pumpkin cake, but we substitute butternut for the pumpkin. She got this out of a newspaper years ago. I don't know where it came from, but it's really good. And we don't use the chocolate chips either. We substitute raisins and some walnuts for them. But first thing she does is just gets all the ingredients out on the the counter and get ready to go. Pretty simple to make, quick to make cake. Starts with 3 cups of flour, and this is just, I guess, a general purpose, all-purpose flour that she uses. Then it takes 2 cups of sugar next. She kind of mixes all the dry ingredients in one bowl first, and then we'll mix everything together in the other bowl later. So next it's 2 teaspoons of baking powder. As you can see, we've kind of switched all our spices and whatnot over to these mason type jars. They work really good and keep bugs out and keep everything sealed well, and so they've worked out good. Then there's some teaspoon of salt, and we use like a sea salt for that. And then 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a nice fine ground cinnamon. And a half teaspoon of a ground nutmeg. And a half teaspoon of ground ginger next. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. So everything, she puts everything in a bowl there with the dry stuff, and then just takes one of the little whisks and just tries to mix it up pretty good and get it all blended together before adding it to the wet bowl. And in that wet bowl, she'll start with need 4 eggs to start out with. Hopefully someday she'll let me have some chicken so we can have our own eggs, but meanwhile we buy them from the store. Then there's a 1 cup of oil that goes in there. She just kind of breaks up the eggs a little bit and mixes that together next. And then instead of pumpkin, what she uses is 2 cups of our roasted butternut from the garden last summer. So she pureed that, just like that video that I made quite a while back. I like the flavor of the butternut better than pumpkin in this cake, it turns out. So that's what we use all the time now. So you just take and, whisk that up good and mix it up good. And then she'll just pour the dry bowl into the other one and just kind of mix that all up together good. Now the recipe actually calls for using chocolate chips in it, and we tried that once, but we didn't really like it. So what we've decided to do is to stick with some chopped walnuts and some raisins next. But you want to take and make sure it's all blended up good and there's no chunks of dry powder or anything left. Then she'll add a half cup of chopped walnuts. And then a half cup of raisins. I mean, you could basically add anything that you want to this cake, but you know, we find that, you know, these two items are our favorites in it. So once you got everything in the you know, in the bowl, just kind of blend it all together there. And before you start the next step, you have to butter and flour a Bundt pan. And then she just takes and scoops it, you know, all into the pan there. In the meantime, you really have to preheat the oven to 350 degrees and, you know, have it all warmed up when you get to this point. Now you just take it over and put it in the oven at 350 for 1 hour, supposedly. Meantime, put everything away, and this spice rack that I made has really worked out great for us. We really like you know, having the jars right there and handy and easy to find. Now after an hour, she pulls it out and she just kind of touches it and knows whether it's done or not. You can use a toothpick and, you know, put it in, pull it out and see if it's still moist, but she felt it needed about another 7 minutes. It could have been the moisture in the squash or something else, but you know, after adding 7 minutes to it, it's done and time to come out of the oven. And before you try to get it out of the pan, she lets it cool for about 10 minutes and then just, you know, lightly goes around with a butter knife there, like, just to make sure that nothing's really stuck, because this can turn into kind of a disaster if it falls apart here. That's kind of what I was worried about for this video, but actually everything came out perfect. So you put it on a plate and then let it cool for a couple of hours before you glaze it. Now next thing, she makes a maple glaze, and she uses some of that confectioner sugar. She doesn't know how much, but she just puts some in a bowl. She said, you know, look what looks like enough for doing the cake. And then I make my own maple syrup from the trees in my backyard. So she puts some homemade maple syrup in there, nice squeeze of it, and then a little bit of milk, and kind of mixes it up. And she said you just kind of have to watch it and see what it looks like, and that was a little thin, so, you know, she adds a little more milk. Turned out that she thought she added a little bit too much milk, with a little bit too thin and runny, so now she's got to go back and, you know, just add a little bit more sugar to counteract. So I guess there's no science to making this glaze, but just have to get it so it's like a real thick, pourable consistency. Then you gotta, you know, work at it and mix it up good. There you can see a lump in it. You got to get all the lumps out and get them all blended together well before you put it on the cake. And now it's all whipped up. She just takes it and kind of spoons it and pours it around the whole top of the cake, and just lets it run down the sides and, you know, everything else, just to glaze the cake. And it's amazing the flavor that the homemade maple syrup gives to this glaze. It's really just, you know, it's just amazing. So she takes it and pours it on the cake, and just kind of lets it drip down and run down. And this time it looks like she might have made a little bit extra glaze here. I'm gonna have to clean some up when it's done, but just spread it around the cake and let it drip down. And there you can see a little bit extra there, but we'll clean that up later. It's nice, you know, nice thick coating on the cake there. And just let it sit for a while and, you know, firm up there on the glaze. And it's really just a wonderful tasting combination with the butternut and the maple. So there it is. You know, it's all done and, you know, basically ready to eat. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.